Hi, welcome to Frankie Rogers Art, and in this video we're going to be discussing my journey into 3D printing. In late April, I took the plunge and decided I wanted to get into 3D printing. I went and bought myself the Creality Halot One. It's often described as being a pretty good 3D resin printer for starters and beginners, so that's why I decided to go for this one in particular. The beginning of my journey was a bit rocky. I had maybe 5 failed prints that were just completely, nothing was sticking to the build plate whatsoever, but it actually turned out that it was entirely my fault. After tweaking some of the settings and stuff to make sure that the layers were thick enough, they had enough time to cure and whatnot, it still wasn't printing properly. What had happened was my first print hadn't stuck to the build plate, and therefore had created a layer of cured resin right on the base of the resin vat, which meant each time it tried to display a different shape of light to cure more resin, it would just be curing the same resin that's already been cured. So there was a little layer that just wasn't moving, it was blocking the light from making anything new. I didn't know this because I didn't empty my vat at any point, and therefore couldn't see it. But once I did, the printing was working fine. However, I did shortly after that make another mistake and make a hole in my film at the bottom of the vat. I needed to order more. It wasn't the best start to my printing journey. But once I got these few things out of the way, I started to have some really nice successful prints, and I was extremely surprised at how crisp they were. I know that everybody on the internet, when doing these reviews and stuff, always says about how crisp they are, and I just kind of never believed it. Like, it was just, yeah, sure, it's good or whatever. But actually seeing it in person, it's mind-blowing. That this little tray of like white or black or liquid turned into this model. It's insane. So, what have I printed so far? Well, the first thing that I printed was some capillary towers. Now, they are scenery based on the Tyranid army from Games Workshop. You see these things throughout the Tyranid Codex. They're like huge spikes that come out of the ground, and they are explained in the lore by being just part of the takeover when they're attacking a planet and starting to digest it. However, Games Workshop don't sell these. They're in all the Tyranid Codexes, but they never actually sell these pieces of scenery, so I thought it'd be good to print some myself. I also went over to Loot Studios and I looked at their free models. They have an amazing little pug with a gun, which I haven't printed yet, but I think I will at some point. And they also had a Viking, which I think was called Head Splitter. Now I've painted that and I did a nice icy base and stuff, and I'm really happy with how it came out. If you'd like to see how I did that ice base, let me know in the comments below. I filmed the process, so I might do another video for it. I also painted an orc bust, and this is my first successful print. So when I was breaking off the supports and stuff, I wasn't quite careful enough and I lost the thumb. So instead of gripping the axe like that, it's kind of just like this, instead where his thumb is missing. I might get around to painting that at some point, but I don't know. It's primed, it's ready to go, so maybe I will. Another beautiful model that I printed is this Cthulhu, which is a model by Hive Delta. I've been following them on Instagram for quite a while, and once I got a 3D printer, it only made sense to actually go and buy one of their models to print. I'm really happy with it. I think I'm going to be using it as a proxy for Bruce Lord, because I've always found that their models are a bit boring, whereas that has loads of character and is quite legitimately scary. So I'm really looking forward to painting that and adding that to my Tyranid arc. Another thing that I printed that I'm currently in the process of painting is this nail. Now this is by, I think it's called Cobra Mode. You can find them on things like My Mini Factory, or they have their own website. And this nail just has so much character to it. It has a backpack that has a chicken on top of it, and a fishing rod and a machete, and some bowl with liquid splashing out, and this nail was even holding a fork. It just has loads of character, and I really wanted to take my time and try and paint it well. I don't get to slow down very often with my painting because like just last week, I painted 20 Necron warriors in a day, because I had a game the next day. I'm normally painting for armies and stuff, so it's always quite nice to print things in particular that are just going to be pieces to paint and display. That's one of the things I'm most looking forward to about owning this printer, is to have models that are just for display, that aren't going to be used in the game, so it will allow me to slow down, really take my time, and make something nice. The most recent thing that I printed is a couple little bits of scenery. Here are two shacks, knockout and reserves, and they go on these tiles, and some of you may know what this is for. It's a new game system that I'm starting to play with. There will be videos related to that most likely in the future, so let me know if you know what this is in the comments below, and if you'd like to see any videos, let me know. So you've seen some of my prints, and as you can see they come out really nicely. Well, like I said previously, it means I'm going to be doing a lot more miniatures that are just for me, painting, not necessarily for games. However, it does also mean I can kind of print my own Warhammer. Now, I'm not one to go and steal Games Workshop designs and print those off. At the end of the day, I love the company. Whether they charge too much or not, they are creating something that I love. I love this game, I love the models, I love everything about it. So I'm not going to cheat the original company out of money just because they make enough as it is. To me, that doesn't have that much logic to it. It's why when people pirate films, I understand they just want to get it for free, but I feel like the creators and all that, they deserve the money they're receiving. If it was no good, nobody would be buying it. So it speaks for itself. And that is why I'm not going to be printing any proper Games Workshop models on my printer. Instead, it will always be things like this Cthulhu that have been designed by an independent person to fit in with some of the models. So what's my opinion on 3D printing? Well, so far I am loving it. It's something that I can just stick on, leave overnight, come back, and bish bash bosh, we've got something wonderful. And what about the printer itself? Well, the Creality Halot One was actually a really good price. It was £200, near enough to the penny. It was actually £199.99, which I think is a really good price for something that a few years ago seemed like wizardry. The idea of having one of these in your home was mental. And now it's relatively easy to get hold of one. So price-wise, I do feel like it's worth it. Now, if you were going to get into 3D printing, I want to tell you a few things you're going to need, because it's not just get your printer, get going. There are a few little bits you're going to need for safety and curing, and you actually need something to put in the printer as well. So the first thing that you're going to need, perhaps obviously, is the resin. Now this is a UV curable resin. They'll normally come in a bottle like this, and you always want to give it a shake before you pour it into your vat, just to get all the molecules moving and stuff. I have no idea why I need to shake it, but I thought I'd say molecules to sound like I know what I'm talking about. Now, generally speaking, your printer will come with a scraper thingy, get your prints off the build plate, and it'll also come with a brush to help when you're curing your models to obviously clean liquid resin off it. And if your printer doesn't come with either of those, that's something you'll need. The next thing you'll need is to do a curing, and that's going to be a big tub, something that you can submerge your prints in. And obviously you don't want it to be empty, so we're going to need some isopropyl alcohol. And this is where you need to be concerned about your health and stuff. So you're going to fill this tub with your alcohol, and then you can swish your models, your fresh prints, around in this alcohol, leave for a few minutes, and all the liquid resin will pour off, and you'll just be left with your hard cured resin. Then put this out to dry somewhere, and it will dry pretty quickly because isopropyl alcohol kind of just disappears. Now, to protect yourself, you're going to want to wear some disposable gloves. Ordinarily, it's latex gloves, but I think I'm going to look into something else, because these fat sausage fingers always create air bubbles. Push my fingers in, this bit is too wide, so there's air trapped up here. My fingers are always like an inch longer than they need to be, because they're so fat. Both the isopropyl alcohol and the resin can give off some fumes. And to combat that, you want to be doing your printing in a well-ventilated area, or get really fancy and wear a gas mask or something. Just a mask that helps get rid of the fumes, because you don't want to be breathing too much of it in. It can be a bit unsafe. That's why we need to take precautions. I have my printer right next to a window, so whenever I'm printing, I have that wide open. Same as when I am doing the curing in my little curing station. And just as a general rule of thumb, you'll probably want to keep some kitchen roll hanging about just for general spillages and stuff. So now the big question, would I recommend doing 3D printing yourself? Yes, I would. Quite often when people are talking about this on the internet, you hear the phrase, it's its own separate hobby. And that is only kind of true. It's a new skill you need to learn, yes. You need to learn how to clean it properly, you need to learn how to get all your settings correct and all that. But once you've got it down, it is a fairly straightforward thing to keep doing. It's like riding a bike. You don't forget, you just do. As an example, because I've heard a lot of people say it's own hobby, in my head, when you do a print, it's going to take a lot of work per print, but it really doesn't. What it takes is an initial setup. What I do is I've got my file settings, as in the support thickness, the layers, thicknesses and cure times and stuff. I've got all that as a preset, and it's just there now. I figured it out once, and now I do the same for everything. I don't input it, it's just there, it's done. So all I do is put a print on overnight, come back, scrape it off, clean it, and then it's basically just whatever I want to do with it. It's not as all-consuming as it was first kind of presented to me as. So if that is something that's stopping you getting into it, don't worry. I think you'll get as much out of it as you put into it. If you put loads of extra time into it, you can get better stuff. But what I'm doing is, I'm more than happy with it. And that's minimal effort. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. I suggest 3D printing on minimal effort. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and comment down below on anything you'd like to see in the future. Also hit that subscribe button if you'd like to see future videos that I put out. And also consider checking out some of the links down below. And as always, until next time, yeah, that's a bit of a clue. I'll see you later.